If you're a city planner or really anyone working on how our cities will adapt to a changing climate, this one's for you. We're going to dig into a story that should be a major wake-up call: Cape Town's terrifyingly close brush with day zero. I mean, just think about that question for a second. It's not some far-off sci-fi scenario. What actually happens? The economy, public health, social order, everything we rely on just stops. It's the kind of scenario that keeps planners up at night. And that's why we're talking about it today. Because in 2018, this wasn't hypothetical. Cape Town came perilously close to being the first major city in the modern world to literally turn off the taps. They gave it a chilling name: Day Zero. So how on earth did a major world-class city get to this point? To really understand the lessons here, we first have to look at the crisis itself. It was this perfect storm of climate change, a growing city, and, as we'll see, a long history of decisions that pushed everything right to the edge. Okay, so take a look at this. This system of dams, this was Cape Town's lifeline. But it was also its Achilles heel. The city's entire water security was tied up in this one system, a system that was completely, 100%, at the mercy of the weather. And this whole thing didn't happen overnight. It was more like a slow-motion train wreck. It started in 2015 with a really dry, hot summer. Then 2016 wasn't much better, so the dams never got a chance to recover. And then came 2017, record-low rainfall that just plunged the whole system toward total failure. This wasn't just a bad year. It was a crisis that had been building for years. And that led to this one number that became the stuff of nightmares for 4 million people: 13.5%. That was it. That was the critical dam level that would trigger day zero, the moment the city would have to shut off water to most homes and businesses, and people would have to line up at public standpipes for their daily water ration. Just imagine. But here's where it gets really interesting for anyone in planning. It's so easy to just blame the weather, right? No rain equals no water. Simple. But that's not the real story here. This wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a crisis of governance, with roots that stretch back for centuries. This quote really just hits the nail on the head. A water crisis is almost never just about the water. It's about the systems, the institutions, the plans we put in place. What happened in Cape Town was a massive failure of those institutions to build a resilient city that could actually handle the shocks that we know are coming. Now, to get this, you have to understand a concept called modern water. For over 100 years, the thinking was pretty simple. Water is just H2O. It's a resource. You capture it with big dams. You move it through big pipes. And if you have a shortage, well, you just go build another dam. It created this very rigid, brittle system that was totally dependent on that one thing: rain. And you can't separate that idea of modern water from the region's colonial history, the idea that progress for some was built on taking land and resources from others. Now, this isn't just some abstract academic idea. It physically shaped the city of Cape Town and decided who would be most at risk when this crisis finally hit. Right, because you just can't understand Cape Town's water problems without looking at its geography of inequality. It's a landscape that was engineered on purpose for segregation. And today, that same design concentrates risk among the city's most vulnerable people. This story goes way back. I mean, it starts in 1652 with conflicts over land and water. Then it kicks into high gear in 1948 with the formal policies of apartheid. And even after the first democratic elections in 1994, the physical scars of that system, the segregated townships, the unequal infrastructure, they're all still there, deeply embedded in the city. You know, apartheid wasn't just a social policy. It was urban planning used as a weapon. It pushed hundreds of thousands of non-white residents into a low-lying area called the Cape Flats. And the cruel, unbelievable irony is that these communities who were most vulnerable to flooding often had the least reliable access to piped water. So you end up with this totally baffling situation where the same city is dealing with too much water in some places and not nearly enough in others. But because of the way the city government was set up, it was basically impossible to tackle these two connected problems at the same time. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Drought, that was the big, sexy crisis. It was handled at every level of government by the powerful water and sanitation department. But flooding, that was seen as a small, local problem in poor neighborhoods, handled by a totally separate stormwater department. They were working in completely different silos, managing two sides of the very same coin.
So, as you can imagine, the crisis forced a massive reckoning. Cape Town averted day zero, mostly through incredible conservation efforts by its citizens. But that near miss gave us an invaluable, hard-won playbook for any city that wants to get serious about water resilience.
So what's the playbook? What can we actually do? First, you have to integrate. Water planning isn't separate from housing or economic development. It's all connected. Second, coordinate. Break down those silos between national, regional, and city governments. Third, diversify your water supply. Don't just rely on rain. We're talking groundwater, water reuse, desalination, all of it. Fourth, you have to build public trust with clear, honest communication before the crisis hits. And finally, and this is absolutely crucial, you must center water justice. You cannot build a resilient city on an unjust foundation. Fixing historical inequalities isn't just the right thing to do, it's a practical requirement for survival.
Which really leaves us with one last big question that I want you to think about. Look at your own city, your own region. Is the water system you have today built for the flexible, equitable, and diverse needs of the future?